Welcome to the biology class. In the previous video, we discussed about diffusion and osmosis. In this video, we are going to discuss about imbibition, active transport, plasmolysis, root hair cells. We also will learn how water is transported through the root cells. Let us start with imbibition. Imbibition is a kind of transport. This is a beaker, water is taken inside. Dry seeds are kept inside the beaker. Water moves inside the dry seeds. Dry seeds are solid substances. Water gets into the solid substance. That results in swelling of the dry seeds. When a seed absorbs water, it swells so it can germinate. This imbibition force helps the germination of seeds. What is imbibition? It is a type of diffusion. In imbibition, solids absorb water and gets swelled up. Let us see examples. Absorption of water by dry grapes and absorption of water by seeds, etc. Plasmolysis involves movement of water out of the cell. Plasmolysis occurs when water moves out of the cell. This is a normal cell. When water moves out, the cytoplasm gets concentrated. The plasma membrane shrinks. The plasma membrane moves out of the cell wall. As water moves outside, the plasma membrane constricts. Due to further loss of water, the plasma membrane again moves from the cell wall. Finally, the cell becomes a plasmolyzed cell. The cytoplasm is highly concentrated. The plasma membrane moves out of the cell wall. This process is called as plasmolysis. When water moves out of the cell, there is shrinkage of plasma membrane. The plasma membrane shrinks away from the cell wall. Active transport involves the movement of substances by using ATP energy. In active transport, movement takes place from the area of lower concentration to the area of higher concentration. Molecules move from the area of lower concentration to the area of higher concentration in active transport. Active transport is uphill movement. Here the movement takes place against the concentration gradient. Movement takes place from lower concentration to higher concentration. It is uphill movement. It needs energy. Let us see the movement of substances or molecules in active transport. The movement starts from the area of lower concentration and movement takes place towards the area of higher concentration. Molecules move from their lower concentration. So, this process needs energy. Active transport involves membrane proteins. You know what is cell membrane? It is a plasma membrane. Here the picture shows plasma membrane. Plasma membrane has membrane proteins. These proteins help the transport of substances from lower concentration to the higher concentration. This process takes place with the help of the ATP energy. So this is active transport. So has membrane proteins. This is membrane protein. It helps the movement of substances from lower concentration to higher concentration by using energy. Energy is used, so this process is called as active transport. Membrane bound proteins involved in active transport. Active transport is carried out by membrane bound proteins. These proteins use energy to carry substances across cell membrane. They are often referred to as pumps. The membrane bound proteins are often referred to as pumps because these pumps can transport substances from a low concentration to high concentration. What are called as pumps? Membrane bound proteins are all called as pumps. They support the uphill transport. Active transport is uphill transport. It takes place from the region of lower concentration to the region of higher concentration. Passive transport is downhill movement. Active transport is uphill movement. It needs energy. In passive transport, molecules move from higher concentration to lower concentration. In active transport, molecules move from lower concentration to higher concentration. So it needs energy. Root hairs. We have already studied about root hairs in Unit 12. In a plant body, the root outer surface is covered by epidermis. Epidermis has root hairs. Root epidermis has root hairs. These root hairs transfer soil water into the plant. Soil water is transported into the plant through root hairs. Root hairs absorb water. This is the tip of a root. Near the tip of roots, millions of root hairs are seen. They absorb water from the soil. Now let us see the pathway of water absorbed by the roots. Root hairs absorb water. The water moves through a particular way. Root hairs absorb water. The water is transported to the cortex due to osmosis. Root hairs absorb water. The water concentration increases in the root hair. So water from the root hair moves to the cortical cells. From one cell to another cell, the water crosses the cortex and then water reaches endodermis. You know, the endodermis has passage cells. Through the passage cells, the water reaches the xylem. As water continuously reaches the xylem, a pressure is created. As a result of this, the water starts moving upwards and water passing through the stem and reaches leaves. Let us see the diagram. Root hair cells absorb water. Water crosses the cortex and reaches the xylem, then moves upwards to the stem and reaches the leaves. So pathway of water absorbed by the roots takes place in two routes. Root hair cells absorb water. The water crosses the cortex and reaches the xylem. This movement takes place through two routes. Let us see one by one. The first one is Apoplast Pathway. The second one is Symplast Pathway. Let us learn the Apoplast Pathway first. In Apoplast Pathway, movement of water occurs through number 1, intercellular spaces. What are intercellular spaces? The space between nearby cells is called as intercellular spaces. In Apoplast pathway, water movement takes place through the intercellular spaces and the wall of the cells. Water passes through the cell walls. In Apoplast pathway, water passes through the cell walls and intercellular spaces. The water does not cross the cell membrane. That means the water does not enter into the cell. This diagram shows Apoplast pathway. Here water does not enter into the cells. The water does not cross the plasma membrane. It passes through the intercellular space and cell wall only. Let us move on to the Symplast pathway. In this pathway, water molecules move through plasma membrane. Water molecules cross the plasma membrane and enter into the cytoplasm. From the cytoplasm of one cell, the water molecules move to the cytoplasm of nearby cell through plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata are gaps between nearby cells. Through the plasmodesmata, water from one cell enters into the cytoplasm of nearby cell. Finally, the plasma membrane allows the movement of water. The water enters into the cytoplasm. Through plasmodesmata, the water enters into the nearby cell, adjacent cell. Symplast pathway involves movement of water through plasma membrane, cytoplasm and plasmodesmata. Water from one cell enters into the nearby cell in Symplast pathway. This diagram shows Symplast pathway. Here water crosses the plasma membrane, cytoplasm. The water crosses the plasmodesmata. They are gaps. And water crosses from one cell to another cell. This method of transport is slow. Because water moves through the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is semi-permeable membrane. So it is a delayed process, a slow process.